I would like to introduce you to the head of growth of WeTransfer, and he will tell us something about how to use your product as an acquisition channel. So please give a big hand for Gabor Kiss.
Look at me in there. Hi, everyone. Do I need this one, by the way? Yes. Okay. So my name is Gabor, and I am the head of user growth and analytics at WeTransfer. Does anyone know WeTransfer? Who knows WeTransfer? That's really nice to hear. So first of all, big shout out to Pascal and his team to have this amazing venue and all these like-minded people. It's really humbling to be here and present in front of you. Today I will talk to you about how to use your product as an acquisition channel. And when, like for instance, yeah, that's good, thank you. So 1 year ago when I joined WeTransfer, I sat with the CEO and the founders of WeTransfer, and they presented me with a challenge. We have, for our mobile application, 250,000 users, and within the next 12 months, your job will be to add the population size of Amsterdam to it, which is 750,000 people. So when I joined, the last couple of months, WeTransfer's mobile application user remained stagnant. So they had about 250,000, they added a couple, they lost a couple. So they mentioned that in the next 12 months, I need to add 750,000 to it. Oh, and by the way, you have 2 people to do it, and you are one of them. Excellent. So I went back to my desk and started thinking, this will be a fun challenge, adding the size of Amsterdam to 250,000 people to make it into 1 million monthly active users. So first of all, I looked into, do we have a retention problem? I'm not sure if you are technical with these terms, but what retention problem means is, do you have a leaky bucket? Which means that people who come in the beginning of the funnel, how many of them are coming out of the funnel? And first we solved that problem, and that's a topic for another talk. But today I'm talking about it, that how we solved one acquisition channel from WeTransfer.com to our mobile application. So I looked into what can we do? How can we scale our product 4x within 12 months? And I tried all the acquisition channels like SEO, SEM, Facebook ads. I think you are all familiar with it. And none of them really made sense, because at the scale where we are, adding 750,000 users, it's so expensive if you use paid marketing channels. So I tried to make the math and it didn't add up. So I had to look into our own products. And WeTransfer is quite loved by a lot of people, and many people know about it. So I was thinking, can we use our own product, WeTransfer.com, to scale our mobile application? And the problem here is, as many of you know, WeTransfer, we don't have accounts, or we do have accounts for paid users. But if you're a free user, you only use your email address and you transfer a file effortlessly from A to B. So the mobile application has a totally different proposition. What we did for our mobile application to collect content from anywhere, regardless if it's on your phone locally, links, or content from the internet. So the use cases are really different for WeTransfer.com and for the mobile application. So I thought that maybe we can use our own product as an acquisition channel to drive traffic to the mobile application. And I had 2 candidates. One was the wallpaper, and the other one was our transactional emails. So if you use WeTransfer, then you know that we have these beautiful canvases in the background, and those are actually designed by 10 of our artists within our company. So we are today 130 people, and we have 10 people dedicated to drawing those wallpapers. And another thing what most people don't know, that 30% of all those impressions, which is about 5 billion impressions in a year, we give away for free for artists, because that's how we contribute to the creative community. And I was looking into, could we use our wallpapers to drive traffic to our mobile application, or our emails? And after a couple of tests, I landed on, we should use our emails. So this is where we landed, that how can we use our own product, the transactional emails, to drive traffic to our mobile application? So how? Next one. Thank you. Yeah, actually, yeah, why I have to look at it because we acquired a company, I will tell you more about it later, a month ago, and they have a presentation app. But they couldn't figure out how the clicker works yet. So actually, I'm trialing this for the first time, this application, and it doesn't work with this type of clicker. Yeah, thanks. So how did we approach this problem? First of all, we started qualitative. So my background is in analytics, and I'm the data guy, but I always start with qualitative data. Because when you design a product, what you need to know is what are the use cases, how people use your product. And these are the first 3 steps what I identified for my team that we need to go through. First, find out your use cases, finding out the natural frequency and the observed frequency. So what this means is, if you come to WeTransfer and you are only sharing holiday photos with WeTransfer, then how many times do you go for holidays? If you go only 3 times in a year, then I cannot expect you to come back 10 times in a year, regardless what I do, even if I upsell emails, whatever, any tactic. So you need to figure out what is the natural frequency of that particular use case, and the observed frequency is how many times it happens on your site or on your own product. So to give an example, when we did user tests, and a lot of users said, we're using WeTransfer for holiday photos, and we saw that they are only using it 1 time in a year, we didn't expect them that they are just going 1 time in a year, then probably using another product to share those holiday photos in another service. So this is a really important aspect for us. And since WeTransfer is really privacy focused, we do not analyze the content what you are sending. So we only know this by asking a lot of questions. So we send a lot of questionnaires and we have a lot of user testing with our users. So these are 2 examples what we have. One for WeTransfer.com and the other one is for our mobile application. You don't really have to look into the details, but this is how we are actually doing it, that we are looking into the use cases and the natural frequencies of those products, and then we are trying to design projects around that. Next one. And the next step after this is we analyze what makes people stay. And this is a really important step because often when you work in growth, you need to make sure that if you have this problem, that you pour people in top and you lose them over time, then the first thing what you need to solve is how to move this line to flatten. And what that means is when you pour 1,000 people on top, if everyone leaves after 12 months, then you always have to pour another 1,000 people on top, month over month. And it becomes more and more expensive, especially when you need to scale at millions. So for us, the first step is how do you make sure that when you pour 1,000 people on top, at least 400 of them remains. And these are dummy data, by the way. So when you've done that, then the next step is you do a correlation study. And this is also really technical, and I don't go into the really technical bits, but what you try to figure out is you already know the type of people who stay with you over a long time, that's called the retention. Then you look at what did they do in their first day, first week, and first month. That's what we consider the actions and triggers what they do in their first period. And then you try to look for correlations between them. What makes people stay? What are the right triggers? What makes people stay over a long time? And the last part is you look for inflection points and sample size. So to give an example, we have people who join WeTransfer, and in their first week, they transfer every single day, like 7 days out of 7. But it's a really small fraction of our user base because they are really engaged. Naturally, it doesn't matter if you engage with them on upsells or notifications, they will naturally be drawn to using the product because probably their use cases, they are designers and they are sharing that content with their clients. So when you are designing experiments, they are not really the good material because they are the ones who are naturally using the product. So in this case, to give you an example on the sample size, they're relatively small when we are looking at our scale. We have 42 million monthly active users right now. And what I mean by inflection points is we figured out that people who are transferring 3 days out of the first month are much more likely to stay with us over 6 months than people who are transferring only 2 days. And what we are trying to optimize for is how to move people between these stages, between 2 day to 3 day. And that's a sweet spot for us, for instance. And this is an example how we are doing it. Like, we have distinct days, how many times people join, and what is the correlation between people who are using that in multiple days for long-term retention. And this is the sample size. And again, dummy data. And obviously we do experiments. And I think that Ferdi did a really good job on explaining his process and experimentation. And we are following a really similar logic there. And the last step is to evaluate your experiments. And the way we do that is there is a common person in growth called Casey Winters. He's a genius in my perspective. And he defines experimentation in 2 steps. You have feature adoption and product adoption. So when you run an experiment and you want people to have a conversion goal or click to a button, that's what we consider feature adoption, when people are using that particular feature you designed them to use. But product adoption is, are they coming back month over month because they did that certain action? So what we are looking for is sustainable growth. We are looking for people to come back month over month. And often you see people optimizing for a click or optimizing for a certain feature, but that doesn't really contribute to long-term success. So what we are doing is we are identifying the right triggers on the feature adoption level, which means that people who are joining and doing the right thing, what we want them to do, but we're also measuring, are they coming back month over month because of it? Because you should ditch features if people are clicking on it or people are using it, but that doesn't contribute to long-term success. And that's a huge importance for our business when you have a simple service like WeTransfer. To find out what you should ditch is as important as what you should keep. So let's talk about the results. So within the first 4 or 5 months, we successfully reached our goal, which we set out to do in 1 year, that to the 250,000 users, add the size of Amsterdam. So that's about 1 million users. And within the next 3 months, we added 2 times the size of Amsterdam. And this September, we reached that we added 3 times the size of Amsterdam. So that means instead of reaching 1 million, we reached 2.5 million. So what's next? A couple of months ago, WeTransfer was known for being a file sharing service. Many people love it. They use it for effortless file sharing from A to B. But today, WeTransfer has 6 products. Last month, we acquired 2 products. One is Paste, what I'm using for this presentation, where the clicker doesn't work. So we're still working on it. And another one called Paper, which is a drawing application on iPad. So my team also grew. From 2, we are now 8 people, and we have 6 products. What we are trying to do is finding all the product combinations, so the same way as how we use the email to drive traffic to our mobile application, we do the same for all products. That you have this product and sending people to another product where we think that they would get value out of, obviously. So to give you examples, what my team is working on right now is, I gave you the example that we have users who are sending holiday photos through WeTransfer. But we want them to explore more of our products. So you send holiday photos, which happens 2-3 times in a year, but we want our users to use it also for client presentations, like these. Then that's a higher frequency use case. So how often do you present? You probably present every month within your team or within your company. That's a higher natural frequency for us. So that's within the same product, moving people into higher frequency. And the second example is When you're sending those presentations, you want to look at it on your phone. But looking content on your phone, PDF or zip files, are not really optimized. So we are making sure that the cross-product use cases are also well-defined. So that when you download your content, we try to make sure that you download the application because that's a better user experience. And a few caveats from our experiments. So I advise 6 product teams within WeTransfer, or I work with them, and also outside of that I give some advice to other companies. And one thing what I see is often people define that you have so many use cases, that your product is so feature-rich that you have 30 different use cases. What it makes it really hard to optimize for. It's really hard to onboard people. It's really hard to understand what you're actually doing. So the first thing what we did is to make sure that we only have 3 to 5 use cases per product, because that made it so much simpler to market the products and to onboard people. The second is that don't design activation flows around core people or core users. And this is also a bit technical, but what I mean by it is, in the beginning we did a lot of experimentation, and we saw that many users did actually what we wanted them to do. And you should always be worried about that. Like, you don't design things that well, that people actually do what you wanted them to do. But many of them, they clicked on the right spots and they stayed active. And what we realized that many of those were early adopters when we did the user testing with them and asked them, how did you find our user flows? So they really skewed our results. They were the people who were new to the application, but they were really eager to try it out. So we now try to make sure that if we design user experiences for marginal users or casual users who are using us every month once, then we don't skew them with the power users. And the last one is think about your emails as an extension of the product. And this is also really crucial to us because WeTransfer is loved by the millions because of the simplicity. You don't have to sign up to send a transfer. But we used the product emails to add another CTA to download the application. But it didn't work well because people just wanted to download their files. So instead what we did is when you wanted to download your file on a mobile device, within that user flow, we introduced to why the mobile application would be more beneficial to use for this use case. And that was also a huge learning for us. Plus one caveat is be known for one thing first. So I think that the success of WeTransfer was that WeTransfer is known for simple file sharing from A to B. And that's why we have 42 million monthly active users today. If we would have started with 6 products, with 20 different use cases, it would have been impossible to market. We wouldn't have had the money, we wouldn't have had the reach to get those users. So instead what we are doing now, we are using that one product and trying to bridge that for the other 5 products what we have. And that's much more natural evolution also for our users. Because they trust us, we are a privacy-friendly company, we don't analyze what you do, and we just try to make sure that you get the best user experience within our product suite. So to recap, even if you're working in B2B or B2C, even if you're working at smaller scale or bigger scale than us, I think that you can apply the same rigor or the same logic. That first of all, define your use cases. If you work with a product, don't start with analyzing the data. Look at what your product is supposed to be solving for. What is the use case? And then try to understand what is the natural frequency for that use case. What is the observed frequency? Like if you go for holidays 3 times, if your product is only used 2 times, then probably people are still going holidays 3 times in a year, just they use another product to share or book a holiday with on the 3rd occasion. Then work on what makes people stay. So if you have a leaky bucket problem, you cannot go further because then you always have to constantly add new people on top. So make sure that you solve that problem. And when you did that, go into the next step. Go into correlation studies. Probably then you need to hire a data scientist or a data analyst to do that, but it's not as technical as you think. It sounds scary, but it's really simple. And then experiment those actions. What do people take in their first day, week, or month, which makes them stay long with you? And then analyze these things, scale it, and then start using your own product as an acquisition channel. Because in 2018, paid acquisition is not a competitive advantage. Most of us already figured out certain ways how to scale that. And if you have a competitor with a bigger budget, which probably all of us do have, then they can outbid you easily. So try to figure out how to do that within your own product and make a loop out of it. And I hope you have enjoyed this talk and have fun.